For the first time in around 2 years, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is actually getting a content update. Now don't get your hopes too high, it's not going to be a new character or anything, but new content in itself is already pretty interesting. With that being said, what is this new content? Well, the Japanese Smash Bros. Twitter account recently tweeted out saying, Super Smash Bros. Special celebrates its 5th anniversary today. Starting tomorrow, we'll be holding an in-game event. Thank you, 5th anniversary of Super Smash Bros. SP release. That part is kind of interesting, but what really caught my attention was the second tweet. Also, from January 2024, we are planning to hold events where new spirits will appear, 4 times in total. That's right, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is getting brand new spirits. This was a complete surprise to me. I was sure the last update we'd get would be for Sora Amiibo support, but this is pretty exciting. Finally, the reign of evil Ryu on the spirit list will be over. Thing is though, we have no clue what these spirits are going to be, so today I thought it'd be fun to predict what these spirits might be and also make spirit battles for them. If you've seen my previous Making Spirits videos, this will be structured in a similar way to those. So anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. At 200k, I'm going to be ranking every 2D Mario level, and let's jump right in. First off, before we get into making the spirits, I have to figure out who I'm even making these for. Luckily, I think we have a pretty good idea as to what these spirit waves will consist of. If you were playing Smash after its release, but before Sora came out, you'd know that every so often, spirits would be added for Nintendo's latest games. So for example, Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury got a few spirits when it released in 2021. This was the case for quite a few other games, like Super Mario Party, Link's Awakening HD, Metroid Dread, and Pokémon Sword and Shield, just to name a few. So I think it's safe to say that these 4 waves will cover the major Nintendo releases after Sora, or in other words, anything after October of 2021. Now there is a possibility that non-Nintendo franchises could get spirits after the fact as well. I mean, that's why we got the infamous Evil Ryu, the last spirit added to the game that ruined the perfect row that Sora left. There are even a few franchises that got spirits after the fact that aren't represented at all otherwise, such as Resident Evil. So these spirits could be from literally anything. I mean, Garten of Banban could get spirits, who knows? But I think it's safe to say that it's going to most likely be from Nintendo games, since there have been quite a few noteworthy releases. I think spirits from Mario Wonder and Tears of the Kingdom are almost guaranteed, so of the games in this video, I'm going to be talking about them the most. But there were 6 other pretty big releases: Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, Splatoon 3, Xenoblade 3, Pikmin 4, and whatever the Fire Emblem game was called, I don't know. So I'll be making spirits for all of these games. If there's a specific game you want to watch, I'll have chapters that you can click in the description. But to start us off, let's take a look at Mario Wonder. There are quite a few things you can make spirits for in Mario Wonder, but I just decided to stick with 9 for now. For each game, I tried to choose the most iconic and important characters, since they're the most likely ones to get spirits. Sorry to anyone who wanted a Snoodle spirit. I don't think all of these will happen, but I think they've each got a decent shot. Also, before getting into the battles themselves, as always, I'll try to get my footage as close as possible to what I'm saying, but for some of the effects, you'll have to use your imagination. Plus, I also allow anything DLC in my videos, even if most spirits avoid them. So starting us off, we of course have Elephant Mario. Being the main new power-up introduced in this game, I would be shocked if this does not come over to Smash. This would be a fight against a giant Mario. He'd be in his 4th vault since the gray matches closest to the colors of the elephant. In order to replicate the trunk, Mario will prefer using down special, since in Wonder, a few puzzles require Elephant Mario to pick up and spit out water. Now as for the stage, I could see this being a bit controversial, but I went with Omega Green Greens. Yeah, I know there are plenty of grassy Mario stages to choose from, but I think the background here is honestly a lot closer to the opening level, Welcome to the Flower Kingdom. Hopefully that choice is fair enough. This would be an ace or 3-star spirit. While we're talking about power-ups, we might as well cover the other 2 new ones, starting off with the Drill Mushroom. This will be represented by Roy Koopa, and he'll prefer using both forward smash and down air, since both obviously use drills. Speaking of which, he'll also spawn in with a drill item, for what I hope are obvious reasons. I'd also make that the only item that can spawn during this fight. Now for this stage, I wanted to represent the Drill Mushroom's main level, Jewel Block Cave, which sadly means this fight will have to take place on the Great Cave Offensive. For the sake of the footage though, I'm using the Omega version. Finally, I also wanted the Thwomp Assist trophy to spawn in during the fight, since they resemble conchs, and you can use the drill power-up to go under Thwomps in-game. This will be an advanced or 2-star spirit. Now of all the power-ups here, the Bubble Flower was shockingly the hardest. There's really nothing bubble related I could find in Smash Ultimate. There might be something I missed, but I just couldn't think of anything. So sadly, this will just have to be Luigi and his pink ult. Luckily, the color scheme on this is almost an exact match to Bubble Mario. Luigi will spam neutral special since his fireballs also float in the air vaguely like the bubbles. Finally, the stage will be Magic Ant, which I think is perfect to represent Fluff Puff Peaks. I mean, they're both pink cloud stages, so it's a perfect fit. This would be an ace spirit. Alright, moving away from power-ups, let's take a look at a few other pretty important elements. I think there's no way the talking flowers do not get a spirit. I'd be absolutely devastated if they didn't. I love the Tuba Flower. This one was pretty easy. It'd be a horde battle against several small yellow piranha plants. There's really no other other conditions I think are necessary, so this will be on Omega Green Greens, and it'd be a Novice or 1-star Spirit. I somehow almost forgot to make a Spirit battle for Prince Florian, but he's gotta have one too. He'd be a tiny Yoshi, which would make him pretty easy to fight, but luckily he'll also have 4 teammates. Those being Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Daisy, obviously all of which are playable characters in Wonder. Now Prince Florian's main gimmick in Wonder is allowing the player to equip badges, so I wanted to represent a few of those in this battle. Randomly his teammates will get 3 effects. First they'll become floaty to represent the parachute cap, then they'll randomly get increased speed for the jet run and fast dash badge, and finally they can get an increased jump height for the various different jumping badges. This would be on Battlefield Green Greens and would be advanced. Now I do have a few more after this, but I think the last Mario Wonder Spirit that's almost a lock-in would be the Wonder Flower. I mean, this flower is basically what makes the game what it is it can spawn in a ton of different wacky effects, like making the game top down, turning Mario into a spike ball, making pipes fall. But since there are so many things it can do, that made this spirit a pretty big challenge for me. So to be honest, I may have cheated a little bit here. First let's start with the obvious. This will be a fight against a blue piranha plant, and it'll be on Battlefield Green Greens. But now comes the conditions. I really wanted to represent some of the various effects in the game, and since the Wonder Flower is wacky and chaotic, this battle will be too. You'll need to defeat the piranha plant within a minute and 30 seconds, which represents the various effects with the time limit in Wonder. The player will randomly slow down to reference Valley Full of Snoodles. The piranha plant will randomly turn metal to represent High Voltage Gauntlet, and Giant to represent Pipe Rock Plateau Palace. Gravity will randomly become floaty for all fighters, to represent the levels where Mario is able to float around. The Moon Assist trophy will be able to spawn in to reference Wavy Ride Through the Magma Tube. Superstars will randomly spawn to reference the various effects that give you stars in Mario Wonder. And finally, the floor will be made slippery in order to reference another uncharted area, Swaying Ruins. So yeah, that's quite a bit. I know it's probably the most conditions out of any spirit battle, but I think that fits pretty well with the Wonder Flower. This would be a legendary or 4-star spirit. Alright, 3 more spirits for Wonder. These are significantly less likely than the others, but I did want to also cover some enemies. Also, if you all want to see a full Making Spirits video for Wonder, make sure to let me know because I'd absolutely love to do that. Starting off our enemies, we have the Wubba. This will be a fight against 3 green Kirbys. They'll have increased movement speed and the floor will be made sticky to represent the slime that Mario has to go through in an uncharted area, Wubba Ruins. To match the ruined aesthetic as well, I made the stage Battlefield Reset Bomb Forest. This would be advanced. The Hoppy Cat will be a fight against 3 Bowser, 2 being green and 1 being red. The red one is a reference to the Hoppy Cat you have to chase down in the midway trial hop to it. All of them prefer using up smash since they leap into the air with their spiky shell, similar to how the Hoppy Cats jump. While we're at it, the Bowsers will also have an increased jump height as well. Randomly during the fight, the Bowser will all become giant in order to reference the Wonder effect in the Hoppy Cat trial hop hop and away. Finally, the stage will be Battlefield Congo Falls, since that's the closest thing I could find to Shining Falls aesthetic. This would be advanced. Finally, the Hoppo would be against 3 pink K rules, with one of them being giant. They'll have increased jump heights, and I also want bumpers to be the only item during this fight, which all references the bouncy ability of the Hoppo. This will take place on Battlefield Mario Galaxy to reference the level Cosmic Hoppos and to give us a bit of a break from basic grassy stages. This will be an advanced spirit. Alright, moving away from Mario Wonder, now it's time we get into the Switch's other big new game, Tears of the Kingdom. Being a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, that meant a lot of this game's characters already existed in that game, but luckily the ones I wanted to make spirits for didn't already have them in Ultimate, so I can make them all here. I think the most obvious set would have to be all the new companion characters or the new champions, since they play major roles in the story and gameplay. Starting off with my boy Tulin, he'll be represented by Pit in his 7th ult. Now with Tulin being a bird, you'd probably expect Falco, but since the new champions also each fight with unique weapons, I thought Pit made the most sense because Tulin uses a bow. For that reason, Pit will also prefer using neutral special. Pit will also have higher jumps to represent Tulin flying. In Tears of the Kingdom, Tulin's main ability is to give the player a gust of wind while gliding, so heavy winds will also be present during this fight. In order to reference the snowy Rito village, the stage would be the snow variant of Minecraft World. You could also go Rainbow Cruise to represent the wind temple, but I like the snow a bit more here. This would be an advanced spirit. For Yunobo, okay, I'll be real, I basically just copied Daruk. They're both yellow Donkey Kongs that spawn with an Ore Club. Both fights also take place on Find Me, though this one will be on Omega Find Me. As for what's different, Donkey Kong here will prefer using dash attack since that resembles how Yunobo looks when launched. His dash will also deal damage in order to further reference his launching ability. I also decided for this stage to Rainbow Bomb since whenever Yunobo hits something, he'll explode. This would be advanced. Sidon will be represented by a big red Greninja. They look fairly similar and Greninja uses a lot of water, so that made sense to me. Greninja will also spawn in with the Killing Edge, which is the closest thing I could find to Sidon's weapon. I also want to make Greninja have a more durable shield, which references the water shield that Sidon could put around the player. This will be on Battlefield Great Bait if it was Zora's domain and would be advanced. Riju would be represented by Hero 8, which at first may seem like a weird choice, but I think their side special fits very well with Riju's lightning ability, so Hero will prefer using that. They'll also spawn in with the Killing Edge, that way Hero is dual wielding his swords just like Riju. To further reference her lightning ability, the floor here will be electrified. The stage would be Battlefield Gerudo Valley, and she would be advanced. Those are the Breath of the Wild returning characters I wanted to bring up, but there are 4 other spirit battles I wanted to make. Also, Calamity Ganon already exists, so I didn't make a new one for Ganondorf this time. First off is the other champion you can call on being Minoru. She would start the battle being represented by Green Wolf, but when she's killed, she'd be replaced by a giant green Rob to represent the mech that she becomes in the future. Wait, should I have given a spoiler warning? Since you find her spirit in the Forgotten Temple, which is located in the depths, I wanted the stage to also reflect that. The best one I could find is Northern Cave, so that's where this is going to take place. Since the depths' whole gimmick is about their extreme darkness, during the fight, the Nightmare Assist trophy will also spawn in to completely darken the stage. This would be an advanced spirit. Now, Rauru was a character that definitely should get a spirit, but I had a super hard time figuring out exactly what to do with him. Since his arm is what's used to give Link his brand new Zonai abilities though, I decided to try and replicate each of them the best I could. Rauru will be represented by a zombie, which may seem super weird, but since Steve can build, I thought he was really the only character that could represent the Ultra Hand ability. For Fuse, I decided to just let a ton of weapons spawn during the fight. For Ascend, I gave the zombie an increased jump height, which is really the best thing I could come up with. Finally, for Recall, the player will randomly slow down, which is not really what the ability does at all, but if you can come up with something better, I'd love to know. Since these abilities are all about helping Link, I think giving Rauru Link as a teammate makes sense. Finally, Zombie will occasionally become invisible, just to reference Rauru being a ghost. This will take place on Temple to represent the Sky Islands, and he'd be an ace. In comparison to Rauru, the Zonai constructs were stupid easy. This will be a horde battle against several green Robs. Each Rob will spawn in with a different weapon, as the Zonai constructs appear with a ton of different types throughout the game to show off how the fuse ability works. This will take place on Skyloft to once again represent the Sky Islands, and this would be a novice. The final Tears of the Kingdom spirit I wanted to make for this video was the Light Dragon. If you didn't hear that spoiler warning earlier, this is your last chance. This will be represented by a giant white Charizard. It'll have an increased jump height, and I also thought it'd be cute if it spawned in with a Killing Edge, which represents how you can find the Master Sword on top of the Light Dragon's head. Now once you defeat Charizard though, the battle won't be over, as a white Zelda will spawn in right after. This of course referencing the fact that Zelda is the Light Dragon. I also wanted this fight to have heavy winds because of the dragon obviously being high up in the sky. This will take place on Omega Great Plateau Tower and would be a legendary spirit. Alright, so now we're getting into the games that have a good chance to get spirits, but I don't think they're as near guarantees as the last two. It's gonna be so funny when the only spirits come from Xenoblade and Fire Emblem. Anyway, Kirby and the Forgotten Land is easily my favorite Kirby game, so I would love to see it get some spirits. I already made a video creating spirits for every copy ability in Mouthful mode, so if you want to see more on this game, make sure to check that out. For the sake of this video though, I'm only going to be repeating one, being Car Kirby, since I feel like that's a lock-in if Forgotten Land is getting any spirits. This will be represented by a big Roy Koopa. He'll prefer using side special since that obviously makes the Clown Car a bit more car-like. His dash will also be able to deal damage, which I think makes sense because Ryan, look out! This would take place on Figure 8 Circuit and would be an ace spirit. As for the new characters, I think we've got to include Elfilin. He'll be represented by a tiny light blue Lucario. He'll also be floaty since Elfilin likes to float around. Now I couldn't really think of any more good conditions, so I decided to give him Kirby as an ally. This would be on Omega Green Greens and would be a novice. Our other three Forgotten Land spirits are all bosses. Gorimondo will be represented by a giant black Donkey Kong. Definitely one of the easiest character choices so far. To represent the mall where this fight takes place, I decided to put this on the opening walk-off section of Prism Tower. There's not really much else to say here though, so it'd be advanced. Leongar will be represented by a giant orange Incineroar. I couldn't really think of a great way to represent Leongar becoming possessed, so I guess Incineroar could just use Revenge a lot or something. As for the stage, Omega Frigate Orpheon is a perfect fit. I mean, both where you fight Leongar and Frigate Orpheon have creatures in glass tubes behind the fight. What more could you want? This would be an ace spirit. Finally, we have the game's final boss being Fecto-Ephelis. He'd be represented by a giant light blue Lucario. He'll also have increased jump height to represent his flight, and he'll spawn in with a staff in order to reference the spear Ephelis has in his fight. I also thought it'd be fun if the Moon Assist trophy would randomly spawn in, since Ephelis is able to throw large meteors at the player. The stage would be Omega Foresight to reference the tower the original fight takes place on, and this would be a legendary spirit. Alright, on to Xenoblade 3. Wait, I don't play anime games! I basically only play Mario with the occasional Zelda and Kirby. What am I gonna do? Well, luckily for our next few games, I know a few people who have played some of them, so I'm completely stealing their ideas for the fights. I have no idea if what I'm saying fits with the games at all, but it's better than having nothing, I guess. If there is something wrong, blame them. So for Xenoblade, I went to my Discord server filled with insane people. Shut up! And luckily my admin Khan is the biggest loser Xenoblade fan I know, and he was able to help me out, with a bit of assistance from another member, Mr. DS. So big thanks to both of them. We got 3 spirits for this game, starting with Noah and Mio. Noah will be represented by Shulk in his 5th ult, and will spawn in with a Killing Edge to represent his sword, the Lucky 7, because it is, and I quote, really sharp. That's the entire gimmick. Yeah, I'd hope so, it's a sword. Mio is represented by a Mii Brawler with a Nia headgear. Now the reason this and the other 2 spirits are team battles is because allegedly the 6 party members are all paired up with their love interests. After you KO both Noah and Mio, a big Metal Sonic in his 2nd ult spawns in. This is a reference to Mio's Ouroboros form, which, according to Khan, by using the power of friendship, they can fuse together into these really ugly looking fusions. I can't believe this is real. This will take place on Omega Gar Plane, and it'll be an Ace Spirit. Lance and Cena are up next. Lance will be represented by a white Ganondorf that prefers using smash attacks. For Cena, Khan suggested a solo Nana in brown, but since I don't recall any spirit battles doing that, I decided to take a creative liberty and do Zero Suit Samus that spawns in with a golden hammer. Once both are defeated, Lance's Ouroboros form is represented by a giant metal Kazuya, since they both punch and shoot lasers. This will be on Omega Gar Plane once again, and is an ace. Finally, Uni and Taeon. Uni will be represented by a black Palutena that has a staff. Taeon will be represented by Joker in his white school uniform. He'll also spawn in with a beetle item to represent his paper origami birds called Mondo. When I went to go look up an image of this on Google Images, I found a frozen Freddy head. For Taeon's Ouroboros form, a big metal Robin spawns in along with some Cuckoos to once again reference the Mondo. This is on Omega Gar Plane and is an ace spirit. For both Pokemon and Pikmin, I asked my brother who is a professional in both of those fields. I used to play a lot of Pokemon on the 3DS. Look, here's baby me completing the Pokedex.
Oh, it's got a crown!
But I've never really bothered with the Switch games. Luckily, my brother is obsessed. In fact, I only asked for 3 spirits in this section, but he just wouldn't stop. I told him I didn't need more, but he just kept going. He wanted to make a spirit for this thing. Why? So anyway, we got 6 spirits here instead of 3. First off, we have the starter trio, Sprigatito, Fuecoco, and Quaxly. This was one I was mostly able to do myself, since they're basically the only new Pokemon I knew. I also decided for them to be a trio since the Smash team did the same thing for the Sword and Shield starter spirits. Anyway, Sprigatito will be a green Incineroar, Fuecoco will be a red K-Rool, and Quaxly a white Falco. All of them will be made small, with K-Rool also having Curry to reference his fire typing. For the stage, we made it Tortimer's Island, and this would be a novice. Now, I originally wanted Koraidon and Miraidon to be one spirit, similar to the 2 dogs I don't care to learn the names of in Sword and Shield, but my brother said that they were quite different, so we got 2 instead. Koraidon will be represented by a red Bowser. He'll have increased speed and will also spawn with a hot head, which my brother said is because of his ability, which causes a harsh sunlight. The floor here will also be made out of lava, and fire items are the only ones available. The stage will be Battlefield Gar Plane, and he'd be an ace. Miraidon, on the other hand, would be a Mecha Ridley. The floor will be a Zap floor to reference his electric typing, and the Ridley will spawn in with a screw attack for the same reason. His movement speed will also be increased. This will take place on Battlefield Midgar. Not that it's different from normal Midgar. My brother said Miraidon is supposed to be futuristic, while Koraidon is more about being in the past, which explains the character and stage choice. This would be an ace. Alright, these other 3 spirits are for legendary Pokemon from the 2 games. Ogerpon will be represented by 4 Little Mac with the green hoodie. Now, based on my brother's explanation, this Pokemon can have 4 different types or something, so to represent that, each Mac gets a different item. One has a Fire Flower for fire type, one has a Lipstick for grass, one has a Drill for rock, and the other one has a Freezy for water. Yeah, I know the Freezy is more of an ice type, but there's no other water items, okay? This will take place on a mega distant planet, and it'd be a legendary. Okidoggy, Monkey Dory, and Pheasantipity. Dude, what are these names? These will be represented by a big green wolf, purple Diddy Kong, and purple Falco respectively. The Diddy Kong will spawn with a banana gun because in the wise words of my brother, monkey. The floor here will also be poison since all 3 of these Pokemon are poison types. The stage will be Battlefield Spiral Mountain, and this would be a legendary. Finally, we have Terrapagos, who will be represented by a green Squirtle. It'll start out small, but then when it's KO'd, it'll come back both as giant and metal. My brother said he wanted to capture the crystal gimmick, but there really wasn't anything he could do other than just make it metal, so hopefully that works for you guys. This would take place on Hazardless Kalos Pokemon League, and would be a legendary. Guys, I'm gonna be honest, I kind of wrote my entire script and entirely forgot to make the Splatoon 3 spirits. So yeah, if this section sounds like a bit of an afterthought, that's because it was. The only spirit I wanted to make anyway was for Deep Cut, which is Splatoon 3's version of the Squid Sisters and Off the Hook. There are probably more characters you could make, but Splatoon is another series I'm not that familiar with. Anyway, the 3 members of Deep Cut are Fire, Shiver, and Big Man. To represent them, I'm going with the Yellow Inkling, Blue Inkling, and a giant Mr. Game & Watch respectively. During the fight, the Squid Sisters Assist Trophy will spawn, and this will take place on Battlefield Moray Towers. This would be advanced. Alright Pikmin fans, this is basically your one chance for me to talk about this series on the channel. Again, if anything here is wrong, blame my brother. Ice Pikmin were very easy. This will be a stamina battle against a horde of tiny light blue Kirby. Each of them will spawn in with a Freezy, and the floor will be ice. The reason this is a stamina battle is just because that's what all the other Pikmin battles were, so I thought we should be consistent. This takes place on Battlefield Summit and is advanced. The Glow Pikmin will feature a stamina battle against a horde of tiny green Dark Samuses. In order to represent the darkness, the Nightmare Assist Trophy will spawn in after a while. This takes place on Gamer and is advanced. Ochi is the dog that was in every trailer, so he'd definitely get a spirit. He'd be represented by Autumn Isabel that has increased speed. Now the special part about this battle is that one of every type of Pikmin will be present as a teammate. I feel like my brother did that just so I'd have to list them all. So that would be a Tiny Incineroar for red, Tiny Squirtle for blue, Tiny Pichu for yellow, Tiny White Kirby for white, Tiny Purple Donkey Kong for purple, Tiny Jigglypuff for winged, Tiny White Kirby for rock, Tiny Light Blue Kirby for ice, and Tiny Green Dark Samus for glow. This would be a stamina battle just like the other Pikmin ones. It would take place on Garden of Hope and would be an ace. The final spirit my brother made is Ancient Sirehound. When he told me the name, I thought he said Siren Head. I have a problem. This will be represented by a giant blue wolf. It'll also have increased speed and a fire flower. On top of that, the floor will also be electrified. In order to represent Louie, Alph will be his teammate. This will take place on Battlefield Northern Cave and would be an ace spirit. Dude, I don't even know where to begin with Fire Emblem. Well, actually, probably the name. Oh, it's called Fire Emblem Engage. Engage with D! Okay, well now that I know the name and nothing else, I think I'm perfectly qualified to make one single spirit on this game. I'm gonna do it based on the two, but technically one character I've seen, the main one, Alear. Now I have also seen what I think is the opening with this extremely goofy shot of the main character turning evil, so I'm just gonna assume these two can switch between blue and red because there's no character on the Smash roster that features these two colors as prominently as them. So this fight will be against Chrom and a red Lucina to represent both genders. Now, I think this game has a gimmick where you can spawn in Fire Emblem people from previous games, so during the fight, Marth, Roy, Adult Ike, Robin, Female Corrin, and Byleth will all be able to spawn one after another, but you only need to defeat the main two representing Alear to win. This will take place on Castle Siege, and I'll make it an Ace Spirit. Why not? Wow, okay, the Fire Emblem section was quick. Now I'm just feeling unsatisfied with this ending, so who could we do instead? Well, I guess I did say third parties who have never been in the game have gotten in before. Jumbo Josh will be represented by a giant green Donkey Kong. This will take place on a Mega Living Room to represent the Garten, and he'd be a legendary spirit. Yeah, that's a better ending. Anyways, that's it for this video. Are you obsessed with Blooms and hate me for not making a spirit for them? Let me know in the comments. I'm honestly pretty excited to see what these new spirits could be, or if they just worded their tweets horribly and there won't actually be any new ones. It's got me curious to see if we'll get any more content for this game after this. I'm hoping for a balance patch or two as well. As a Steve main, I'd greatly appreciate people having less to complain about. Also, I didn't mention them in the main video, and I don't think it'll happen, but if they somehow make FNAF spirits, I'll be so excited. But anyway, that's enough rambling. Dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.